Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular council meeting for February 6, 2017. I want to first say that we're holding this meeting on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nations. Our clerk tonight is Ms. Sheila Gurry, and we have a recess scheduled for 9 p.m. Call the meeting to order, and can we have the introduction of late items, please, Ms. Gurry?
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening on the addendum, we have a removal of agenda item 5A, Poet Laureate and Youth Poet Laureate. They couldn't make it due to the weather. We're going to move and renumber agenda item 5B, Celebrating Canada 150 in Nanaimo, to agenda item 5A, and we're adding a report for the Canada 150 celebration funding. Removing agenda item 7B, Nanaimo Event Center Project Team, and removing agenda item 8A, Nanaimo Event Center Phase 3 Budget. And that's it.
Thank you. Does Council have any other items? Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been approached by a community organization who's asked me to bring this request forward. And I think that it would be placed under other business on the agenda. And that would be, this is what has been prepared. The City of Nanaimo will hold 6 open houses in order to promote public engagement and awareness in connection with the proposed event centre. I move that, with fairness, openness, and transparency in mind, this council permits the No Vote 2017 Society, a registered society, which also will be registered with Elections BC as of February 9th, 2017, to set up and staff a table in order to distribute information during the open houses planned for February 9th, 15th, 16th, 21st, 23rd, as well as March 1st, 2017.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we have a motion for the adoption of the agenda as amended. So moved by Councillor Beswick, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. So we need a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the January 9th meeting of the special meeting of Council held at the Shaw Auditorium on January 9th.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Thorpe and seconded by Councillor Beswick. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Our first presentation tonight under 5A is Celebrating Canada 150 in Nanaimo. We have a presentation by Mr. Wally Wells and Diana Johnstone, co-chairs of the Canada 150 celebration in Nanaimo. Please. Good evening to you both.
Good evening, Your Worship. Good evening, councillors. It's a snowy day out there today. But beautiful, still beautiful in the city of Nanaimo. I love it. Thank you for seeing us tonight and letting us come and present to you again. And we're hoping we can make this monthly or every 6 weeks from now till the time to keep you abreast of what's happening in Nanaimo and with our committee and what's new and happening. So hopefully you'll indulge us. We'll keep it short, but we're your committee. You are the people that struck us, and it's a city committee, and we're thrilled to be working on behalf of the citizens of our city. So thank you very much. So, what is Canada 150 Sesquicentennial? In 2017, Canadians living in Nanaimo will have an opportunity to mark the 150th anniversary of our great country. Our 150th is an occasion worthy of celebration, but more importantly, it's an invitation to imagine what it means to be a Canadian in the 21st century. Reflect, think, and imagine. What we want to accomplish in 2017 is we want to tell Nanaimo's story with a legacy show. And we've talked to you about the legacy show before, and let me just read a little part that I think maybe some of you read in the newspaper. But the legacy show is called Black Stones in Bathtubs. Black Stones in Bathtubs is a musical review of the town you never knew. Join in the celebration of Canada's 150 with Blackstones and Bathtubs, a surprising and moving musical review inspired by Nanaimo's culture and heritage. Lost in layers of coconut, custard, and chocolate on the delicious Nanaimo Bar Trail, a group of tourists miss the departure of their cruise. With a cruel southeaster mounting, the group is forced to extend their stay in the foggy town whose name they can't seem to agree on how to pronounce. But as lightning strikes, a new journey begins. Join the rumble and tumble aboard the Dream of Nanaimo as the city's ancient roots, explosive history, and quirky culture spring to life. Blackstones and Bathtubs is a tourism product that we're hoping will draw tourism to our city for many years to come. If successful, this is not a one-off event. It's a wonderful time to celebrate it and bring it forward for Canada's legacy, for Nanaimo's legacy for 150. But it's something we want to offer the citizens and tourists to our country, to our city, for many, many years. So we're hoping it's going to be a great success. Ollie.
We have our website up and running now, just this month. There is a calendar on that website, and we've encouraged all community groups and so forth to put their events up there. They can go in and post their events, so there's going to be a master calendar. We mentioned about keeping you up to date. There will be a press release going out this week because basically February 1 is 150 days from 150 July 1. So that's sort of the 150, 151 fits in. We have a very aggressive package kindly given to us with about 99% in kind from Island Radio. You won't need to rely on us to hear from me. All you can do is turn your radio on, and it comes up to monthly, bi-weekly, weekly, and daily as we lead up to the event. We're very happy in the next month. We will be at Hockeytown. We will be at the Maple Sugar Festival, and we have secured with a sponsor from Chatwin Engineering to be the core speaker at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon in order to let the community know what's going on with that particular initiative. At this point, we're meeting with many organizations. We are still attempting to secure as much funding as possible. However, we have had to make certain commitments. We have put a hold on people for fireworks, which we're going to have to honor fairly soon or let go. We have certain commitments with respect to the play and some of the other areas, including promotional material and so forth for these upcoming events. The city has put in $30,000. We have found, as shown in the staff report, we do not have enough money to do the things we want, and this is why we've come back tonight to ask you in the staff report for $75,000 in this year's budget. If for some reason the city is not able to supply that, we will have to obviously look at what we can do. We will have an event, and it will be a very good event. We still have an awful lot of people wanting to show up. I believe last year, the numbers I heard, there was 5,000 to 8,000 people in the park. I think with fireworks and so forth, we'll be able to really have a grandiose event this year. We do have the HMCS Nanaimo now secured as coming in. We also have a search and rescue operation, depending that there's no search and rescue going on that day, to have the helicopters in, thanks to our search and rescue people here at no particular cost to us. This is another volunteer effort. So you have the staff report, you have our letter that you requested outlining things. I hope I brought you up to date on some of the activities. We thank Council also for officially appointing us through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities as the spokesman for the Canada 150. That's in the mill now, and we're beginning to get information from them. So we'd be very happy to answer any questions.
I might just add, before we receive questions, that Canada Heritage, the federal government, is still talking to us. We're getting lots of questions about our application, our grant applications, and we're quite confident that we're going to get at least one of the 2 grants that we applied for. And we asked for the maximum grants for both, so that was $49,900. So we're very optimistic that we're going to receive some of that funding. And I had a very good meeting with Daniel Pierce from the Regional District of Nanaimo the other day with regard to busing during our event, and he was very optimistic that we'd be able to bring all these wonderful citizens down to our park on July 1st with free busing. So that'll be going before some of you that sit on the Transportation Advisory Committee in the next short while. So hopefully you'll support it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe has a question for you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, if I may, comment on two questions. First of all, I want to thank both of you, Diana and Wally, and all of your volunteer helpers for the work that you've done as volunteers on behalf of the City of Nanaimo for this most worthwhile and special occasion, Canada 150. So I know you've been working hard, and it has been hard work. So I really want to acknowledge that and thank you. My two questions. First of all, Mr. Wells, you mentioned a website, and I didn't hear exactly what it was. What was the website, please?
It is just www.nanaimocelebration.ca, I believe. But we'll forward that to you.
Thank you. I'd like to check it out. My second question, when we think of Canada 150, I was thinking of the one-day celebration, of course, and all of the activities that you have planned around that. But this legacy play seems something a little bit beyond that is meant to continue. And I just wondered what the inspiration behind that was, or the purpose behind that was, or how did you come up with that idea?
Well, it was inspired really by the the federal committees, and they were looking for every city in our great country to create some type of a legacy to leave in commemoration of Canada 150. And so this was our offering, this wonderful opportunity to have a production, which we've been trying to do for many, many years. My work in tourism and whatnot is to have a play that will, we can eventually, maybe if we ever have a amphitheater outside, have a theater under the stars. But for this year, we're going to have the 10 shows. It's not just on the one day on the 2nd of July, but we'll have 10 shows during the month of July. And we'll be advertising that very, very hard in the next short while to try and get all the numbers there. And it will make it affordable so families could come and make it a tourism draw. And that'll bring people downtown and create more tourism and help the hotels and campgrounds and get people to our city.
Sounds something special. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I had a chance to talk to Diana this morning. And I wanted just to, I guess ask some of the questions that I asked her so the rest of the council can hear. The $20,000 for the Legacy show is for rehearsals. It's actually not for the play. So where are you doing these rehearsals?
It's not entirely for rehearsals, Jerry. It's for preparing the show, for costumes, for actors, for everything that goes into building a musical production. But the rehearsals that we will be having will be held at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre. That's the venue we've secured.
Okay, so don't we own the Vancouver Island Conference Centre? So we're going to pay ourselves to pay ourselves. I think we've done other things where we've waived fees for organizations. I remember I asked council to do that for Nanaimo First Nations basketball, an event that they had there. So I like to see where this breakdown is. If it's a venue that they needed to use that's not being used, it doesn't seem to make any sense. It looks like people are going to say that, we're buffing up our revenues by giving ourselves our money and paying back ourselves. So let's be realistic. If it's going to be free and we're going to get it back, let's just give it to them for free. We're going to get the money anyway. Doesn't seem to make any sense. And I'd like to know what the Port Theatre is doing. I'm hoping, as a society, they see the value of this legacy show and that they're going to be reducing their costs to contribute to the well-being of Nanaimo and the 150. So I'm going to be asking staff or the Port Theatre, wherever it's going to be, to see what they're going to do to help as a society. So not only for you guys, I know it's beyond you, it's not your mandate, but
we do have, as a city, management contracts, and it's never been, it's something that we've been very careful about, is yes. Not setting a precedent by offering our venues for free, our hockey arenas or anything. So, So
We've done
it's,
that.
I mean, that would have to be something this council would have to
Yes.
decide, because as a group of volunteers, that's beyond our,
Yes, I understand.
can't do that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go on, I wonder if I can remind council that we have a requirement in our bylaw to address the delegation as Mr. or Mrs. And I'd ask you to do the same, Mrs. Johnson, if you could, please, as opposed to first names. Councillor Brennan.
I don't think this is a question for the delegations, to be honest. I think it's a question that we'll discuss amongst ourselves. Sorry, I'm looking forward to it, but I don't have a lot of questions. I have a lot of anticipation.
The company producing the show is everybody as well. They know the company is Razzle Dazzle, who do the Yellow Point production every year. And they won we went out for a request for proposal, and they were awarded the grant to produce this show. So we know it's in good hands.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you can answer my question. That is as it stands right now. We've given you two commitments. We've provided $35,000 to date, $5,000 plus $30,000 commitment for 2017. This, I take it, the $75,000 is over and above that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Motion to receive the delegation.
Moved.
Moved by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Kipp. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move that we grant the 150-year society the $75,000 that they have requested. And if I could speak to it, if I could speak to it if I had a seconder. Second.
So it's moved by Councillor Brennan and it's now been seconded by Councillor Beswick.
No.
And you wish to speak to it?
Pardon me? Yes. Yeah. Tell me what page that's on.
Page 2 of the green sheets.
So I had understood they'd already got the 20, 20, and 35. Is that wrong?
If you look at the overview on page 2 of the green sheets under recommendation,
Yep.
it's there 20, 20 plus 35.
I'm sorry. My memory told me that we had already granted them money and that they were asking for an additional 75. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So then I will just. It looks like Dale has some information for me. Or Mr. Lindsay.
Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify, the 2020-35 on page 2, that's just a breakdown of the 75,000 request. So that's correct. We have, in last year, there was 5,000 the council committed, and there's 30,000 in the 2017 budget. But these numbers here are what added up total, the $75,000.
Okay, so if I moved recommendations 1 and 2, that would add up to 75,000.
You
Is that
still
what you're
need to
saying?
make a decision about where the funding will come from. Are you going to amend the existing budget or use the council's contingency fund?
So my selection then for number 2, where it would come from, is that I would amend the financial plan to add $75,000. It's very early in the year to, I think, determine what council's contingent, what draws will be necessary for council contingency, and that $75,000 is not a lot of money. And I think this is a worthwhile project, and I would like to see it go on. I can't see the point in asking the conference center to waive their fee or the port to waive their fee, because in the end, we simply make that up anyway. So I think it's like an familiar kind of accounting system, and in and out, and that's what this is. And so I'd rather just keep it consistent with our practice.
Thank you. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. I'd like to defer this until I get a staff report. I thought we were getting a presentation on a staff report. Oh, I thought they were going to present something because I wanted to ask some questions about staff.
Your Worship, we did not have a presentation prepared. The staff report circulated on the green sheets. We don't have anything to add in terms of detail beyond what you received from your delegation this evening, but happy to take any questions pertaining to the report.
Sure. I'd like to ask a question. The city traditionally puts on an event downtown. So are we going to do that on top of this as well?
That is correct. Normally it's done through Parks and Rec at Maffeo Sutton. So this year I would still be working with them, but these monies would be to augment or in addition to sort of the traditional event that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Summer, you okay?
I just a point of clarification. The city the council doesn't have the authority to direct either the Port Authority or Vancouver Island Conference Centre to waive fees. Yeah, sorry. Got the Port Authority on my mind. Or them either.
Thank you. So I wonder if we could, we just need a bit of housework to do here, housekeeping to do, and that is that the motion was originally moved and seconded by Councillors Brennan and Bestwick with no direction on A and B of Part 2. So just to confirm with Councillor Bestwick that going with A is acceptable to you.
Seems simpler for me to go through council contingency as opposed to having to go back and amend our budget for 2017. But either way, I'm supporting the motion. So either way, whatever is simplest for our finance department to make the necessary adjustments to our budget.
Thank you. Ms. Gurry.
Thank you, Worship. If you wanted to vote on them seriatim, one at a time, if that would work.
I thought I just heard no objection.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Oh, well, yeah, I like the idea and the legacy show, the events, and adding the events on 150 year. I think that's adding to what we already do. I think it's important. The fireworks, I think, are always a great draw downtown. I do like B better, just because our contingency is in the plan now. And so if we require later on to increase our contingency, then we could probably look at something, because we do seem to have some leftover money, some surpluses in our year. So I would like to see it come out of the allocation from our contingency fund. So.
However, A is on the floor.
What's that? A
is on the floor.
The sense is that it would be better to use the contingency fund than, I'm certainly not going to quibble. Contingency, if I can withdraw the A and replace it with B.
Okay. The seconder? Okay. It appears agreeable to the seconder. Thank you. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. I just want to know where the $35,000, so this is going to be a total of $105,000. I want to know where that 35 from 2016 to 2017 came from. Was that contingency or was that actually budgeted?
Your Worship, that was budgeted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, Mayor's report. I'm going to work a little bit. I've got a couple of folks that are going to help me out with this one here. First one is I want Ms. Gurry, if you could, to please describe the mail-in process with respect to the referendum.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that you have all been receiving quite a bit of questions, as have we, regarding mail-in ballots, so I thought it would be a good opportunity, especially since you wanted me to describe the process. I did a little bit a couple meetings ago, but this more fulsomely describes it. So the mail-in ballot process has the same requirements as to who can vote as if you were showing up at the polls in person. So you have to be 18, Canadian citizen, etc., and all the details are on our website. But you also have to have a physical disability, illness, or injury that affects your ability to vote at another voting opportunity and or expect to be away from voting jurisdiction on the non-election assent voting day, March 11th, 2017, supposedly, and the times of all advanced voting opportunities, which so far we have tentatively set as March 1st and March 8th. So in addition to the above requirements, a person must meet all the voting requirements for voting in a local election as a resident elector or a non-resident property elector as of the date the mail ballot is completed and posted. In order to vote by mail, an application must be completed and delivered to the Legislative Services Department. If you don't have access to a printer or a scanner, we can mail you the application. If you can't scan and email it back to us, you can mail it back to us. Just those are some questions I've had, so I thought I'd add that in there. Once we receive your application, we will send you a mail ballot package, depending on what kind of voter you are. If you're a resident elect voter or non-resident elect voter, it depends on your circumstance. We'll send you a special ballot package. And as soon as we can after February 17th. And the February 17th date is because we have to receive the ballots and we have to test the ballots before we can mail them out. If we receive your application after February 27th and time may not permit mailing you the ballot package in time, you should arrange to have it picked up from the Legislative Services Department. And delivering of the applications by hand, mail, or fax to the address listed on the screen there, and it's also again on our website. And you are responsible for ensuring your completed ballot is received before 4:30 p.m. on Friday, March 10th in the Legislative Services Department. So that could either be hand-delivered, somebody could bring it for you, you could mail it via Canada Post, or you could express post it or courier it. Or you could have somebody hand deliver it to one of our polling locations at the Service and Resource Center at 411 Dunsmuir Street on the day of voting and hand it to the presiding election official at that location. The application forms must be signed by the elector and witnessed. We cannot accept a typewritten signature on the application to vote by mail, and applications are available at the city website and through the Legislative Services Department. So again, you can go to our website, print it, we can email it to you, or we could physically mail it to you. And for further information on all of these matters and anything else, you can visit our 2017 elections page on the City of Nanaimo's website at www.nanaimo.ca/go-to/elections, or contact me, Sheila Gurry, or Sky Snellgrove, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer, at 250-755-4405, or at email vote@nanaimo.ca. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify with you that that both the application and the ballots must be original documents. So you can download the application form with which to and then submit that by mail. So you're going to be doing two mailings.
The application has to be a signature, but we can accept a scanned back application. So the application can be scanned. It doesn't have to be original. The ballot, of course, cannot be scanned, cannot be copied. It has to be the actual ballot returned to us.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor Hong and Kip?
Yeah, thank you. When can I submit? Can I mail it to you like anytime? Once I get this application to fill my ballot out, can I just mail it to you and then off I go to Mexico? Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, and if you're already in Mexico, you can fill out your application and email it back to us, and we can send your ballot to Mexico.
Thank you.
Councillor Kip.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. Will this be circulated on our website? Will there be some information in the media, other media too?
This is already all on our website, and it will be in the paper, the bulletin on Thursday. We'll have links to it from our front page on our website. We already do, and I can get Mr. Cooper to put it out on social media as well.
And I would like to get a clarification. A property owner who does not live in Nanaimo or gets a vote in the election to, or in this assent voting too. So if you
Yes.
live in Lanceville and own property in Nanaimo, you can come to the polling station, or and you have to have your voting card then.
No, you can vote either by mail ballot if you're not in town, and or you can come into any polling station. They're called non-resident electors, and we have a list of non-resident electors, and if you're not on that voters list, you can register at the day of voting as well. You just need to prove that you are a property owner in the city of Nanaimo, and that the majority of owners consents to you voting.
And you only get that one vote then?
Correct. Yes, you can't vote for a property you own as well as a property you reside in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to carry on because I've got more. There are two items that are in the news of late. Of course, one of them is snow clearing and how Nanaimo is approaching the snow clearing. And of course, the second one is the byproduct of that, and that is how do I get my recycling and garbage and organics picked up with all of this snow on the ground. So we're going to have Mr. McCrae come and give us some details on that. Mr. McCrae.
Yes, good evening, Your Worship, members of council. It's been quite an interesting 96 hours, as most people can appreciate. Thursday evening, we had been given some identification that there was going to be some moderate to light snow. Crews began preparing a brine mixture, which is what we put down on the road, which essentially when the snow falls at a light to moderate pace will allow that snow to be dissipated. However, that weather forecast changed dramatically at that point, and we actually ended up with a heavy snowfall right away. Because of that, at 5:40 a.m., after the snow event happened, we dispatched the majority, if not all, of our equipment and all of our resources at that time and began to work on a 24-hour clock. The DOC was established at that point, so we made sure that police, fire, emergency management, public works, any other agency that needed to be involved, i.e. the RDN, was kept in the loop. Senior management, along with the CAO, were kept in the loop every hour on the hour. Staff were having meetings throughout the evening and the beginning of the morning to make sure we had briefings, to make sure that council was aware of the situation, as well as working with the public communications department to make sure that the public was aware of what our staff were doing. So we have to focus on what we call the primary roads and then the secondary, and then we move to the residential. And what we found was that the snow would come in waves. It wasn't a very steady event. It became very cyclical as bands would come across. So the minute that our staff would deal with a primary or a tertiary road, that it would come back again. And so we'd have to loop back around. So instead of getting to the other roads, we'd have to hit the main roads again. So staff have been working 24/7. I would like to thank the public works staff for really stepping up on this one. A lot of staff that were at home and could have stayed home came in and showed their support for the municipality.
And I do, on behalf of council as well, wish to thank staff for all the hard work. We've seen over the course of the 2 days over the weekend, a minimum of 14 trucks plus contractors out there. Notwithstanding the fact that we've had trucks that have been overworked and they've had to go in the shop for service. So the fact that folks put their hands up on Super Bowl Sunday and still went out to work to do the job that we were asking them to do was a testament to their dedication to their work. Ms. Sammer, did you want to add something? No? Great, thank you. The other thing I wanted to talk about just briefly, touch base on just briefly, was on with respect to twofold. One, budget. There's been a lot of discussion in social media about our budget. The fact was that over in the years past, we've had an annual budget of about $400,000, and once the year's completed, that $400,000 was done. There was no residual. Any residuals that were left over were put back into general reserves. And a couple of years ago, the decision was made by council not to do that, but in fact to roll over into a snow contingency budget. So this year, because there was $600,000 or $700,000 in the reserve budget, or $500,000, thank you, there was $500,000 in the reserve. The decision was made to reduce the budget out of our general budget to $200,000 from $400,000. That doesn't mean that the budget was cut in half. What it means was where the money was coming from from different allocations. So it would be $200,000 because it was such a healthy reserve, and the other $500,000, making a grand total of $700,000. Even if the amount of work required goes to $900,000, we'll still have the trucks out there. There's no, this is a budget line, budget number. Doesn't mean that the minute we hit our maximum budget that the trucks go back to the shop and they don't go do any more work. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. So just to give you an idea, 2012 our budget was, the amount spent was $453,000. 13 it was $258,000. In 2014 it went back up to $549,000, and in 2015 it was down to $165,000. But there was in the past 15 years or so, there was 1 year where it significantly exceeded budget, and the trucks kept working and the crews kept working. So garbage. Now on garbage, while our trucks are all equipped with chains, the fact is that there are some places that they just simply can't get to. I know of one case, hearing one anecdotal story about a fellow who, in the course of a morning on his assigned day during the event there, Thursday or Friday, he actually almost got involved into 4 different accidents and had the potential for rolling the truck over, and of course losing a $250,000 piece of equipment in the process. So if your garbage collection is missed, please take it back in. We'll collect it on your next scheduled garbage collection day, and there'll be no requirement for additional tags other than, and I know our guys are going to work real hard to not make that a big issue, other than what you're normally allowed. If your kitchen waste is missed, again, take it back in. We'll pick it up again next week. Heaven forbid that we're going to continue to not be able to get to you. I believe if your recycling was missed today, again, leave it out for 2 days. The contractor will do their best to collect it on Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. For example, keep it out for 2 days beyond your date, because they're going to try and come in and get it. And for those missed on Friday, February the 3rd, your garbage will be collected on your next garbage collection day, Monday the 20th. Your kitchen waste will be collected on your next kitchen waste day of Friday the 10th, and your recycling has not been collected by tomorrow, Tuesday the 7th. Please put it in on your next recycling collection day, Monday the 20th. So I think that's got it all. Thank you very much. Next item. Pardon me. Councillor Yoakum.
Thank you. Mr. McRae, just a quick question on the conversation. Just for clarity, for people that may have missed for the weather, when I hear, because I will come forward when I hear this garbage, this isn't a criticism, I just want clarity. So people can put out garbage plus what was missed today on the next garbage day.
That's my understanding from the Director of Sanitation and the Manager of Sanitation.
So
yes.
the one amount that's permitted, it can be double, or, okay, I just want to be clear, because just to be clear, maybe just for myself, but for people out there are super clear on this.
To be very clear, Your Worship, yes.
At no extra charge.
What is put out there does not require tags, does not require any other special considerations. What is put out there, we will pick up.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So the next item is under administration, and it's the clarification and verification of Vancouver Island Conference Centre and Hotel Market Feasibility Studies. And the purpose is to present Council with updated information on the Vancouver Island Conference Centre and Hotel Market Feasibility Studies. Ms. Sammer, I wonder if either yourself or Mr. Lindsay is going to speak to that. Great, thank you. Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Council will recall, the firm of CBRE was hired, and they did the majority of their work in 2016 to look at the VICC and hotel market feasibility studies. That work ultimately came forward to Council, and when I believe it was September of last year, at the night that it came forward, there were some questions that were raised by the Nanaimo Hotel Association. And we addressed those in the report, but the specific concern was there was a discrepancy between the report, which identified something like 14,000 room night stays associated with events at the conference center versus what the Hotel Association had on record. So the purpose of bringing this was sent back to staff, for verification and clarification about and trying to identify why that discrepancy. And what it really comes down to, Your Worship, is that there was no tracking of hotel stays associated with every event that came out of here. So in the absence of that data, CBRE simply looked at the events that were held throughout the previous calendar year and used a model to estimate the number of room stays that would be generated by those types of events. And they broke them down by category as whether they were a multi-day conference, whether they were meetings from out of town, or whether they were in-town meetings. And they applied their own methodology. So as part of this verification, staff, we've looked at all of the events and confirmed that the data that they used from VICC is correct. And at the end of the day, CBRE stands behind their original estimation of approximately 14,000 room stays. Moving forward, it's staff's recommendation and best practices as we move into our next management contract that we actually track and log in more detail room night stays associated with all events from the conference center.
Thank you very much. And just a question on that, and that is something that's becoming quite prevalent, is Airbnbs. How are we going to actually track where a delegate's staying? You know that.
Yeah, so the tracking would actually need to be done through the conference center and through the events they have here rather than through the hotels, B&Bs, or Airbnbs. Yes.
Great, thank you. So there is a recommendation on page 15. Is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? I'll move the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. We've provided this information to the Hotel Association.
That is correct, Your Worship. As part of this review and clarification process, we have met with the Hotel Association members, yes.
Thank you. And the review, as you stated, was that CRBE stands behind their original report to the VICC, et cetera, indicated 14,000 room nights as a result of conferences or conventions here, whereby the Hotel Association, I believe, at the time said they could only account for 4,000 of those rooms with a discrepancy of approximately 10,000 room nights. And I read with interest on page 16 of the staff report that as a result of the review, staff can clarify that the room night generation information presented in the report is based on standard industry assumptions, which to me is anecdotal information that you've clarified that we were just guessing with the information. And I would have to guess then that the delegate day spend is also just assumptions based on a formula of industry standard across the nation. Would that also be correct?
CBRE, who are a recognized firm in this area, would use both. They would do both what they're seeing at event centers, at conference centers throughout the country, but also put in some local qualifiers to try to make sure that the numbers that they were presenting accurately reflected the conditions here in Nanaimo.
Thank you, to reflect the conditions in Nanaimo, and I think that the number that was used for delegate day spend was $345 a day, which in Nanaimo, to make such a statement of me is, I think, inconsistent with what a delegate spend day would be. But since we're basing it on assumptions of national industry standards, I can understand the $345 a day number. Thank you.
I wonder if I could ask a question, Mr. Lindsay, and that is the daily spend. I was always under the impression the daily spend was always derived from calculations that were made by the faculty or the faculty group of the Vancouver Island University when they were tasked with determining daily spend?
Oh, Your Worship, I can't comment on any work done by the university, but I do know that the numbers that Councillor Beswick is referring to, this is the work that CBRE did, and they did not look at every single delegate the same. They, again, broke it down by the type of meeting, whether it was a multi-day conference, whether it was a one-night meeting, such as this evening, and didn't apply the same daily spin-off to each of those. The 350 was for the person who attended generally a multi-day conference.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Yoakum.
Thank you. Just quickly, thank you, Mr. Lindsay. So to accept this report as for receipt for information, what's the information going to be used for in whom's audience? Because with the tender coming out, I wouldn't want to mislead any potential data, because 10,000 nights is a quite drastic difference between the hotel people and these guys. So who is the information? It says to be received for information, just to park on a shelf, or if you can help me, that'd be great. Thank you.
I think, Your Worship, I think Councillor Yoakum certainly touched on one, in that any party interested in 100 Gordon would certainly look at the information coming out of this study. Ultimately, it would be up to those parties to determine, to do their own due diligence and determine how to weigh this information. I think also at the time we made the original recommendation, it had been a number of years since the original work was done in support of this building, and I think the timing being moving to new negotiations with a potential operator, it was worth updating that data.
I'm going to supplement that answer as well, though I think we've been clear in most of the meetings is that the CBRE did not audit actuals. So they didn't go down and audit the data given to them by the Vancouver Island Conference Center operator at LIFICA. So there's a difference between auditing that data and doing industry standards. And when you look at the report that's attached, there's a whole bunch of assumptions and disclaimers and comments made by CBRE on how they do their methodology. So they've been very clear in their report how they approach this and what their methodology is. The city's not representing this to be the city's findings.
Thank you. So there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is under Community Services, Travel Assistance Grant for BC Old Age Pensioners Organization Nanaimo Branch. And the purpose is to obtain council approval of a request for a travel assistance grant. There's a recommendation on page 164. Is there someone prepared to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Yoakum, seconded by Councillor Beswick. Discussion. Councillor Kipp.
In favor of giving the this money, but I'm wondering if someone can tell me how long ago was the amount of the travel reviewed at Parks and Rec or anything, or in that, like, it's been $100 for a long, long time. We have a lot of teams going out in Nanaimo, a lot of groups going out and representing us both in art and culture and sport. So I think maybe that's something we need to maybe see if we can find out when it was last updated. Although, because you get 20 people going for a national championship or something, and it's an expensive little proposition nowadays. To go back to Quebec a couple of years ago, it was over $45,000 to get a team back there, and hotels and things. So it's quite expensive, and I think it brings a lot of pride to the city when people go off and participate in these functions. They bring back a lot of valuable assets to the community by participating in these events, seeing other facilities, seeing how other facilities are run. So I think it's something we should look at. But I support the motion on the floor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Beswick.
Clearly support this, but a question that I would have as well to complement Councillor Kipp is that I don't know if this applicant has a coach, a trainer, an assistant coach, and a companion. It's a long way to go. New South Wales, Australia, representing us, the city of Nanaimo. And most people usually travel with some form of trainer or coach and would be eligible for another $100. So maybe that's something that our Director of Parks and Recreation can reach out to this applicant and see if they have somebody that could qualify somehow as a traveling companion / coach. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. I'm happy to support this, and rather than just kind of do a one-off, once this motion is dealt with, I will make a motion to refer the question to Grants in Aid. Is that what it's called now? Does it still exist? Well, once it does exist, if it ever will, I would make a motion to ask them to review the sums awarded for these travel grants and come back with a report to us looking towards increasing them, making them more realistic in these days.
Thank you. Councillor Yocum.
Thank you. Silly question, but just do we have a cap per year of 7, like 10 or 7? Only 7?
So there's a lot of questions I'll take back, staff
Okay.
will take back, but right now, as part of the core services review, the recommendation and the work of staff is to look at all of our grants and funds and look at how these are being approached and come up with a cohesive strategy, and that'll be presented at the Finance and Audit Committee. So you don't actually need a motion to direct us to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan.
Is there any estimate on when that might happen?
Actually, quite soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, development permit number DP 1006 at 1406 Bowen Road. And the purpose is to present for council's consideration a development permit application for a 25-unit multifamily development located at 1406 Bowen Road. And we have one delegation, Mr. Chris Beaton from the Nanaimo Aboriginal Center.
Excuse me. Good evening. Chris Beaton, Nanaimo Aboriginal Center from here in Nanaimo. I want to begin by recognizing the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation. I also want to take the opportunity to thank staff and, Mayor and Council and numerous staff for the support they've offered to this project to date. We acknowledge and recognize that this project would not be as far along as it is right now without that support. We're also excited to be here this evening and talking about the development permit application one step closer to beginning construction on this affordable housing project for Nanaimo. And of course, we support staff's recommendation for the approval of the development permit. And I'm, in short, just here to answer any questions that you might have regarding the application to the best of my ability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, but I have questions for you. Okay. I wonder if you can help me with eliminate the requirement for screening with plants around the garbage enclosure.
Yeah, I think almost all of those points, Mayor, on the variances relate to the thinness of this property. There's so little space when you put 3 buildings of 25 units of affordable housing. There's variances from the front, from the back, around the garbage enclosure. It's really the tightness of this space, the sort of shape of this lot that is driving a lot of these decisions and the requests for variances.
Thank you very much. That's it. That's all we've got.
Your Worship?
Oh, Councillor Brennan.
So it seems very specific. It says eliminate the requirement for screening with plants. Right. Does that mean it'll be screened with a fence or some sort of enclosure? Or
definitely there is an enclosure around the garbage container. That is a requirement. And yes, that's in place. It's just, again, the landscaping aspect of it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Motion to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor Bestwick, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now on. No, it's good. That's it. Next item. No, pardon me. Move the recommendations. Jeez. Moved by Councillor Kipp, seconded by Councillor Bestwick.
Discussion.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Not to belabor this, I certainly support this project and want to see it move ahead. But following up on the last two questions, through you to staff, I would just like to be assured that there will be adequate screening around this garbage pickup area.
Thank you, Worship. Given the proximity to the property, the applicants actually have proposed that a structure be completed. So it's actually a concrete and cedar small building with a metal roof. So the garbage and recycling would be completely contained within that structure. And there are some images of it on page 182 of your agenda.
Yeah, I saw that. I just wasn't sure it would be adequate. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other? I'm just wondering on the if I could, Mr. Lindsay, on the parking. If we were to look at the Nanaimo Association for Community Living's, no, it's not theirs. It's the Nanaimo Affordable Housing Association up at with 20, is it 20 units or 30 units at Bowen and Meredith? It's 20. Thank you. At 20. So they were at 1 because there's 20 parking spaces there. So they're only using 25% of that, which is a reduced number to start. Do we believe that that 18 is an oversupply? In reality, because I go by that place up there with 20 units, and the most cars I've ever counted in that parking lot, and I count them every time I go by, is 5.
And certainly our recommendation, Your Worship, was informed on what we're seeing on that project and other projects throughout the community. The one thing I would note on this development, though, there are quite a number of 3-bedroom units. So if we're seeing slightly higher rates than we saw at the project you're referring to, that's part of the rationale.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item. Development permit number DP 1016 at 1515 Dufferin Crescent. And the purpose is to present for Council's consideration a development permit application for a 5-story medical office building with an attached 5-story above-grade parking structure located at 1515 Dufferin Crescent. There is a recommendation on page 183. Moved by Councillor Bestwick, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Discussion. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is another project I'm quite excited about and very pleased to support. And quite often it seems we deal with variances where parking is being reduced, sometimes drastically. And I'm just really impressed that in this case, in this project, there's going to be actually, if I read it correctly, a surplus of parking spaces created for that neighborhood. So that, I think, is very good news. And congratulations to the planners who've come up with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, development variance permit, number DVP 299 at 429 Milton Street. Its request, and the purpose is to present for Council's consideration a development variance permit application to allow the construction of a single residential dwelling and a carriage house with variances to the maximum lot coverage, minimum rear yard setback, and a minimum side yard setbacks at 429 Milton Street. And it's requested that Council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 299 at 429 Milton Street. If we can have your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Doug Kreba. I live at 421 Milton Street. My wife and I are here tonight because we are in favor of carriage houses. We are in favor of infill and densification of the downtown. We have the lot that's marked R15, 421 Milton Street, and share some of the physical issues that 429 have. And I'm concerned about the reducing the setback from 7.55 to 5.11 meters. When we went through the process of developing our property, city staff said this is a requirement. It can't be done without that kind of a setback. So my request to council is to be fair. If you're going to do it for one developer in this neighborhood, you should be allow it to happen for all of the developers in the neighborhood who have similar issues and similar concerns. So that's my main point. When I looked at the development proposal that was, a copy was given to me through our mailbox, and I got one in the mail. I couldn't get the math to work. If I was a draftsperson, or if I knew somebody who was a draftsperson, I would look at the side setbacks of 1.54 meters, a building of 6.71, and at the other side, so I'm looking at this drawing. I don't know whether you can show that, 1.52. It doesn't add up to the lot width. And then the middle measurement of 1.65 plus 1.52 plus 6.71, the lot width changes. So I'm confused by the measurements of this drawing. It doesn't make me feel comfortable with this proposal that's in front of council.
Mr. Lindsay, can you help us with this?
Sorry, Your Worship, I'm not sure I quite follow the comment about they don't add up.
The measurements, so when I look at this drawing, Dale, Mr. Lindsay, no, I'm not, see, I'm not required.
Thank you.
I can call you Dale, right? It shows me the lot width of 9.73 meters. And then I add up the measurements of the setback on the side, the building, and the setback on the south side. They don't add up to 9.73. When I go down through the property to the middle of the property, I see the side set at 1.65 plus 6.71 plus 1.52, and that total is different than the one that I just previously added up. And then if you go to the back lot line, there is a different width of lot. It's confusing. Is it?
Worship, Councillor Kipp got ahead of me there, but I think that might be part of the answers. I think the lot might be slightly tapered, but if there's a discrepancy, it's the yard variances that are being requested. At the end of the day, if the width of the dwelling unit needs to be reduced to comply, that would need to occur. Yeah.
Okay. So my issue still is the 7.55 to 5.11 meters at the back.
So I guess if I could just give an answer to that, because we do get that once in a while. The last incident that I remember we were asked about that was with respect to relocation of a liquor store up to Brooks Landing, and a couple of the folks came forward and said you need to be consistent in your rulings. Staff would support either one of the applications that were previously applied for at that location. Then along came a third one. Every single application that comes forward, you can, notwithstanding the fact that staff may not support it, you always have the opportunity to apply for a variance, as is being done in this case, as you would have had it in yours as well. You always have an opportunity to come forward to council with a variance.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to 429 Milton Street? Sir. We need your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you very much. Your Worship, Mayor McKay, council, staff, I'm Dan Eddy. I own TerraGrow, which is the owner of 429 Milton Street. And I just came to speak and clarify a little bit about that project, which has been going on, and council has seen this a few times over the years. Just to clarify, I have a larger format map here, and indeed the width of the lot is 9.73 meters at one end and 10.04 meters on the other, which may account for the difference in the width. And I can't do math that quickly in my head, so I'm not sure whether that math in fact added up or not. What I would like to just bring to the attention is that this lot was zoned R14 in the past, and basically all of the we looked at doing excuse me, this is a variance to a comprehensive development, and which, by no fault of anybody's but my own, we went into thinking that we had some flexibility under the comprehensive development, which was more difficult to obtain than we thought. And so what we did is we've applied for variances which are all going to meet and be consistent with what the old R14 designation was on there. And so we aren't going above any of those items. And if there's any other questions, we'd certainly be glad to try and answer them.
Oh, I've seen none. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to 429 Milton Street? 429 Milton Street. And third and final, 429 Milton Street. Seeing none, motion to receive the delegations. Moved by Councillor Bestwick, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need there's a recommendation on page 198. Moved the recommendation by Councillor Kipp, seconded by Councillor Yoakum. Discussion. Councillor Brennan.
I'm sure I'm missing something, but is there something particular about this lot that makes it difficult to comply with the regulations?
Your Worship, in answering that question, there's two things. That there was a comprehensive development zone that was applied to these properties. So at one time it had the same zoning as all the neighboring lands, but in order to allow for the two-lot subdivision that you see, a CD zone was applied for and granted a number of years ago. And the CD zone at that time contemplated there'd be two single-family homes built on each lot, basically one on the lane, one on Milton Street. So at that time, the CD zone basically locks down whatever the design is at that time. And as the applicant was speaking tonight, I was thinking about the rear yard setback that was mentioned earlier as an example. If the original zoning had been kept, many of these variances, including the rear yard setback, would not be required because we allow for secondary suites to be in accessory buildings, and accessory buildings where they're on a lane to be within a meter of the lane. So the variances are all tied very closely to the CD zone and this desire to go from what was originally two homes on the property to a home with a detached carriage home or a detached suite. Does that answer your question?
I just want to know why the carriage house. Carriage houses are supposed to be smaller than the predominant house. And I'm thinking that when asking for the variances, that tells me that the carriage house is going to be bigger than we would have imagined. Am I wrong about that? Am I understanding this wrong?
The image on
Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, the image on page 204 probably helps out the best, the actual site plan. So the carriage house is on the left with access off the lane. So it's definitely smaller and in compliance with our maximum carriage house requirements. The previous CD zone had two dwelling units the same size. That was what was being anticipated. So this is definitely the change, and this is the change that's causing the need for these variances.
Okay.
Thank you. So the motion has it's been moved and seconded. No further questions. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Development variance permit number DVP 301 at 4321 Boban Drive. And the purpose is to present for council's consideration a development variance permit application to vary the maximum permitted sign area in a land use contract 1833 to allow an oversized fascia sign and freestanding sign at 4321 Boban Drive. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 301 at 4321 Boban Drive. For the second time, is there anyone wishing to speak to 4321 Boban Drive? And for the third and final, seeing none, There's a recommendation on page 208.
I would move that council issue development variance permit DVP 301 at 4321 Bowman Drive with the following variances: increase the maximum sign area for the fascia sign from 2.97 meters square to 5.39 meters square, and increase the maximum sign area for a freestanding sign from 2.97 meters square to 4.65 meters square.
It's been moved by Councillor Beswick and seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Discussion. Seeing none, we call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is advisory committee minutes, and the Grants Advisory Subcommittee held 2016, October 19th. We have a mover, please, to receive those minutes. Moved by Councillor Thorpe, seconded by Councillor Brennan. Errors and omissions? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, bylaws with no accompanying report. And Councillor Fuller would normally read those out. Who's next on the hit parade?
Councillor Beswick.
Councillor Beswick, if you'd be so kind as to read out the bylaws with no accompanying report.
What page is that?
220? Actually,
221 and 222.
here. That's one. There's the other one right there.
Thank you.
$5.
$5? I so move that purchasing power delegation repeal bylaw 2017 number 7235 to repeal purchasing power delegation bylaw 2013 number 7175 be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Beswick and seconded by Councillor Hong. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
So move that purchasing power delegation bylaw 2017 number 7236 to update the purchasing power delegation bylaw to reflect the updated administrative organization structure be adopted.
Moved by Councillor Beswick, seconded by Councillor Hong. Thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along. No correspondence, no council appointments, no notice of motion. Other business. Councillor Brennan.
So, I'll just read the whole thing again. The City of Nanaimo will hold 6 open houses in order to promote public engagement and awareness in connection with the proposed event center. I move that, with fairness, openness, and transparency in mind, this council permits the No Vote 2017 Society, a registered society which also will be registered with Elections BC, as of February 9th, 2017, to set up and staff a table in order to distribute information during said open houses planned for February 9, 15, 16, 21, 23, as well as March 1st, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Discussion. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you. So the purpose is for a group, a community group, to set up a table at these. It's an interesting one. Whether we would help someone in opposition to a development permit or any of those other things too, whether there's anything that ties into that. If it's just a space for a table, I don't have a concern, but what information is put on the table? Who's validating it? I mean, this proposal was done by the city under the strategic plan, and we're putting forward our pretty pictures of the event center and our documents. And the stuff that I've seen online currently doesn't always, I'll say that, I love that alternative fact stuff that's out there, or all the information isn't on the table and questions are arising and that have been answered. Like, still people are getting every once in a while, is there going to be a referendum? You need to go to referendum for this. So I guess this open and transparency part, they're open and transparent online right now. They're doing what they should do for protests. It's typical. I don't think Fred Padgett was paid to help against the what was it, the subdivision out in Ocean View. People did this on their own, the volunteers that are opposed to something. So I'm not certain this will accomplish what we want to accomplish with it, and this openness and transparent. So I guess, like I say, I'll have to think here for a minute and hear some other arguments.
Thank you. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. I can't support this because I haven't heard from the other side. How do you favor one group over another group that is for it, or maybe a group that is maybe for it? It's not fair. This is an information session that's offered by the city. They can host their own events. Like whoever wants to push, if there's a yes committee, they can do their own events. This is an information session. This isn't going to be an attack on staff. Let's make this clear. This is an information session from staff. I don't want information that's going to be contradicting to staff to put them in a position where they are not able to answer from some rhetorical questions that might come up from a table. That's not fair to staff. This is a city initiative staffed by city staff. They deserve the right to do the job that this council has directed them to do. If this council wants to make a motion that, hey, let's give up some space for Bevan Park for the no people, let's do it. Let's make a motion to give up some space for Bevan Park for the yes people, let's do it. But I'm not interested in affecting staff's ability to do the job that council has set them out to do. That's not fair to them. It's not what this information was about. So I will be voting in no. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you. I won't be supporting the motion. This is, as has already been stated, this is a city initiative. It's one of our strategic priorities. People requested and asked for assurance that there would be a referendum. There is going to be a referendum. The information that's been provided to date so far online and in hard copy and otherwise, you can take it, you can read it, you can accept it, you can reject it, you can do whatever you wish to do with that information. If it helps you create a decision-making process for yourself and those that you influence with the information that you take away from that, then so be it. If you wish to have an event that draws attention to the no side or the yes side or the maybe side, whatever, then fulfill that on your own time in your own space. This is a city initiative. There's a referendum March 11th. If you choose to support it, you do. If you choose not to, you do. And on March 12th, we'll all get up, the sun goes up, and we'll see what we're going to do on March 13th or not. The information is necessary for people that is being provided to be able to make up their minds if they haven't already. And so I think it's only right that we do that. That's an obligation that we have. And we don't have obligations on every time that when we built the water treatment plant, we didn't have people that said that, well, I think our water's great the way it is. When we did the Colliery Dam thing, I don't know that we had, okay, well, let's hold a referendum on whether or not we're going to invest $10 million to do something that we think is some people thought was safe and some people don't. So I don't understand the logic, so I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. It's not atypical. It's not atypical for progressive governments to give grants of money even to ensure that the community has an opportunity to see and hear an alternate point of view on major initiatives of government. So that's quite a typical thing you will see governments doing, just to be able to level the playing field for the different points of view. Government has very deep pockets, and citizens sometimes have a deep suspicion of what might be occurring. under a government initiative. And certainly we've seen that there are questions on this particular project. And but these people they're not asking for money. They're just asking for space where they can make their material and their information available to people who are interested in learning about the multiplex and what it might mean. So they go to the city and get that information. They can stop by a table and pick up information that has a different point of view. I think it's a fair way to go. I don't think that it's so what gets me is it's sort of like, this is not unusual. This is, I'm not going to say it's typical, but it certainly isn't atypical for a government to say, we're going to fund the opposition here just so that everybody gets each side of the story. So I thought a table with some paper and staffed by a couple of people would be something that we could accommodate, and so I brought this forward. And quite frankly, I know that somebody thought that I was doing a major political grandstand on this, and that I didn't do it for the conference center because I was for the conference center. So why would I do it? The facts are, I did do it. We had a delegation come ask us for a budget of $7,000, and even though I supported the conference center, continued to support the conference center, I supported the motion. I made the motion and supported the motion to give the Friends of Plan Nanaimo, as they were called, a $7,000 grant so they could present the opposite side. So I don't think it's political grandstanding to try to level the playing field for your constituents when they have a very big project. So, I'm not going out being arrested or anything like that. I'm just asking for a table for people to be able to give us their point of view.
Thank you. Councillor Yoakum.
Thank you. I believe the purpose of the open house is to provide information and answers and questions. It's not a place for debate. I believe it's a place where the public, whether they like it or not, can get the... Because first of all, our staff aren't out there misleading. The staff are just reading the facts and stating the facts. Also the numbers and facts from independent Ernst & Young. So I also believe it's also a place to provide a safe and open environment for residents and taxpayers. And intimidation through various means discourages participation. It would be a shame if these interested in listening and read available information chose not to attend. So it's got to be a place to provide information. And I don't think the staff are there. They're not lobbying. They're there to provide answer questions and how this can be done and how it will be done with the results of the Ernst & Young report. So I won't be able to support this at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thanks, Chair. All along, I've been trying to keep an open mind on this issue, and I've said several times I want people to have as much complete, accurate information as possible, and I really respect our staff, and I'm sure that they will be at these open houses providing detailed, accurate information. But that said, I don't have a problem with, and I'm not even sure we can stop people with opposing views from showing up. I don't know if we can stop them from having a table, but I don't personally mind if people from the yes side or the no side or both sides are on hand to answer questions from people and give their viewpoint. And maybe that would better allow people to determine what the truth is and what the facts are. So I don't have a problem with anybody being at these things. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp.
Thank you. I'm concerned when we start thinking of these initiatives, this government with so much money, and that's one of my problems is everybody thinks government has so much money, but it doesn't. The government doesn't have that money. They just take the money out of our pockets of different levels in taxation and user fees and things. So, man, I would have loved to fund the other side of the Colliery Dam group. I'd love to fund the other side of people getting, theater money or whatever. If you start to fund the people that don't want that, I think it's a problem. If they want, I could set up a tent outside. I've got tarps and everything, tent, heat system. I could set that outside for them if they want, and they could protest out there. But yeah, now that I just don't think, if they want to set up a table, I don't know. It just, to me, it's like fervent opposition trying to disrupt things when we're having a meeting. It'd be like whenever we have placards running through here. People, sometimes they like them. When it was the anti-pipe in the sky, boy, it was exciting to have all the signs here. But when it was something about something else, we don't want those signs here. So we can't just pick and choose every time we want and bring something forward. And I haven't had time to think about this one. When's our first open house? I wish this was a notice of motion so we had more time. So, yeah. No, I don't know. I'm torn two ways. A table, bunch of protests, I like that too. Letting our staff just run the process like we want to run it, I think is more important right now. And the people who want to oppose this can gather their information, and they have been Facebooking like crazy, that group. They've been blogging. They've been doing stuff. They've said claiming people are in conflict of interest. 1 minute they're talking about, well, this thing will never go, and then they're talking about it being too busy downtown for parking. So I think it's just asking for trouble. It's not transparency to me. Transparency would be them saying and putting forward their stuff and getting paper ads like I've done before in protests where we pay for it and we protest and we fund the money to get actions done. And like I say, I don't know. I'm kind of confused by this request. I don't think I can support it.
Thank you. Councillor Kipp, or Bestwick, pardon me.
Thank you. Just to Councillor Thorpe, in his response, he indicated that he doesn't. You're not concerned who attends. I don't think anybody does. I want everybody to attend. People that are in favor, people that aren't in favor, and people that aren't sure yet. So I hope they all attend. To me, this isn't a yes table or a no table. This is an event, if you will, open houses, to provide information as it relates to the possibility of an event center being built. And people can come that aren't in favor, and I met most of them at the 3 previous open houses that I attended, all of them from beginning to end. And I hope that my schedule permits that I can attend every one of these from beginning to end, all 6 of them. And I welcome everybody to come to these events, opposed or in favor or undecided. And I don't want a yes table there, and I don't want a no table there. I want the information that we have, that we've invested, to have available, and people can make their mind up from there. And that's, to me, that's what these events are all about: is providing said information. And if people that aren't in favor of it wish to come and hand out their information, which they did at the last ones, then they can come and do it at this one too, or these ones as well. So I don't want a yes table there with a nicer table and nicer balloons, and I don't want a no table there with whatever.
Ms. Fowler, you're on.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first, to answer a question, the first open house is Thursday night, so this Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. here at the Vancouver Island Conference Centre in the Dodd Narrows Room. To answer that question, staff will be providing a variety of presentations, including the referendum process, finance, how the centre is going to propose to be financed, environmental information, geotechnical information, transportation. There will be different boards and panels and staff available at each of those to answer the questions. And really, the information that the purpose is to provide information. It is not to debate. So we're happy to provide the information and answer questions. I can say that one of the number one issues over several hundred public meetings and public hearings I've been in that residents and taxpayers say that they don't attend is because they do not want to be intimidated. They don't want to be approached. They don't want to be lobbied. They want to safely go into a place, look at some information, ask a few questions, and leave. That is given to me in terms of the reasons when we would like to get as many people out to these events as possible, regardless of those views. It's to provide the information and answer questions. And any groups can provide information outside the facility or websites or other social media that's already been mentioned, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, thank you, Ms. Fowler, for that information, because I think, like Councillor Kipp, I've been weighing this, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I think thinking back to other open houses that we've had on other issues, I don't recall this coming up. So although I can understand Councillor Brennan's motion and the intent behind it in attempting to be fair and open and transparent and allow everybody to have a say, I think Ms. Fowler has convinced me that it would perhaps not be in the best interest. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you. Yeah, clearly, there's no intent, and I don't think any intent indicated in this motion that the group has asked for anything other than a table to be staffed. If there was concerns that they might approach people, harass people, intimidate people, push their views on people, of course, you could set up some rules of engagement and say, you sit at your table, you wait for somebody to come, and you give them the information. It seems fairly civilized to me. The notion that this is a kind of an unruly crowd that might come in intimidating people who've come just to find out about the conference center, I think is a little bit off the mark, maybe slightly misleading about the character of this proposal. You know what? Maybe in the summertime, it'd be a grand plan to say, stand outside with leaflets like they do in other places, or set up your table out there. But, I don't know, so Thursday is 2 days from now or 3 days from now. I don't think the weather's going to be permitting, and maybe we could let them come in the hallway. But, we're going to an awful lot of trouble here to try to, if we said, no, don't want it, left it at that. But the explanations that are being presented certainly could lead someone to think that there was some suppression of that. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm quite happy to vote on it. I can count as well as anybody else. So I'm not sure why we want to prolong it, but I just wanted basically to stand up for the character of the people who would be doing this.
Thank you. Councillor Hong.
Thank you. I, on the other hand, can't echo Councillor Brennan's views. I've read some of those posts. There's a yes side. People have dropped. People are pulling their names out because they're being insulted. I'll read you an email here on Facebook. This whole thing has gotten way too personal for me. I've been now called an alcoholic, drug addict, dumbass, idiot, beep, and many others, and I have to drop this yes thing.
On a point of order, please. A point of order, you don't get to finish. A point of order takes precedence. Those are the rules, Bill.
Councillor Brennan.
This is a society. It's a registered society. It has its own rules, etc. Whomever is being quoted off of a website really is not germane to the society. So I would ask that the chair rule that unless the quote is from someone identified as being with this group, that it's out of order.
Thank you. Ms. Curry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it is okay for Councillor Hong to proceed in the fact that there is no registered societies as of yet until the notice has been set for the actual assent voting day. The registrations for Elections BC have not been verified yet until we set the date. So I was talking with Elections BC today, and until the date and notice is set by me, they're not registered for this yes or no side of the vote. So.
Until such time as it's called. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to echo Ms. Fowler's and the reason what Councillor Thorpe said. I want people to come, open, safe, nobody to be intimidated. It's not fair. And I just want to echo that part. So there is mudslinging going on. I don't want anybody to be intimidated because of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sammer.
Question.
I actually want to speak on the question, if it's all right. Thank you. There are 3 points of view, in my view. And I've thought about this long and hard since the discussion first came up today. There's a yes side, there's a no side, and there's supposed to be a factual side that has no affiliation either way. That's the role the city is supposed to be taking in this. I know that I've followed all kinds of the comments online. I've read letters to the editor. I've read our own emails to each other. At this particular point, I have my own personal position that I'll be saving for the ballot box. I want what the citizens of Nanaimo want. So if they want this project to go ahead, then I'll support that. If they don't want it to go ahead, I'll support that as well. Council has been accused of being the cheerleaders for the yes side. We're not. There may be some of us that are, individually, inclined one way or the other. I'm certainly not trying to be a cheerleader. All the way along, I've tried to vote in favor of getting more information out to the public so that we can get as much as possible, so that we can make, we've done our due diligence. It's all about process and divulgence of facts, as far as I'm concerned. Surprisingly enough, I'm going to actually, in this day and age, in this new order, so to speak, I kind of think there should be a yes table, a no table, and our own storyboards. So I think if we're going to allow one group, the other guys should be allowed to do it as well. I'm quite okay with that. Although I wouldn't be okay with that if it was anything other than a major city project. If it was a development, I'd be concerned about that. If we were holding a public hearing today, for example, on a major real estate development that, it might be quite comprehensive, or a resort or some such thing like that, I wouldn't want to provide the opportunity for folks in a city building to go up against a private developer. There's ways to do that, but this is our development. So in actual fact, I want as much information to be able to be out there for everyone. I really enjoy reading the comments online. Some of them are correct, some of them aren't. But at least it's thought-provoking discussion, and I think everybody should make sure that they've got all the information. Like Councillor Kipp said, when folks say referendum, this thing needs to go to referendum. Well, where have you been? As one of the pieces of information. So I'm going to actually support the motion that's on the floor. All right, going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Show Councillors Hong, Yoakum, Bestwick, and Kipp opposed. Motion's defeated. Thank you. Yep, no, I got that. Yep. No, thank you. Next item, question period. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Don Bonner from Nanaimo. It's rather difficult to ask questions. I would rather have been a presenter at the debate that you just had. So I'll go over a few things that I had.
Please, sir, you just need, please stick to questions.
Yes, I know.
On tonight's agenda.
It's very difficult
Thank
on
you.
tonight's agenda. So the questions I have are varied. Council will remember that I was here a couple of weeks ago when I spoke about the need for transparency in this referendum, the need for openness, and as much information as we can possibly get. And then I find out that in our agenda today that 2 elements were taken out of the agenda, and that was out of the on the addendum, the removal of the Nanaimo Events Center project team and the removal of the Nanaimo Events Center Phase 3 budget. How are we as citizens going to be able to make decisions on these things when they are now delayed till February 20th, and we're not even going to see that? The whole idea is that council and staff are supposed to be presenting us with information, and we've got diddly squat in the last week, and looks like we're not going to get anything in the near future. So when is this going to change, and when are we going to see these 2 reports?
Well, those reports weren't ready for this evening, and it's my understanding they'll be ready for next Monday.
Do we know why they weren't ready? We have a staff of hundreds, and we have obviously a fair amount of money to spend because it's being spent hand over fist. Why weren't these reports ready when they said they were going to be ready for the addendum?
I believe there's negotiations involved.
Okay, so we really don't know then. On the issue of, I take a little bit of umbrage about people suggesting that people are going to be at these events and they're going to be browbeating people and stuff like that. The No Vote 2017 Society is respected people who have joined the society. It's not like we're going to be showing up and waving our fingers in staff's face. And I'm trying to get to a question, like they did in the Colliery Dam events and stuff like that. I think that we have only 2 sides, and as the city has said, that they're there just to present information. If that were the case and they weren't there cheerleading the yes side, then we would see in the information a whole bunch of information of why this isn't a good idea. Yet we're seeing none of that. So my question is, when is the pros and cons going to be laid out for the citizens of Nanaimo to actually look at? Because all we're seeing, as Councillor Kipp mentioned, pretty pictures that paint this thing as God's gift to Nanaimo. And I would like to see some hard-hitting information about why this isn't a good idea coming from staff and from council, through council to staff.
Thank you. Ms. Fowler?
Your Worship, in terms of intimidation, it's not the person who's making the presentation or providing the information, it's the person who's receiving it that makes the determination of intimidation. There's not the suggestion that there's going to be anything untoward being done. I just wanted to make that clear. What I've assumed, is a good public meeting and an open house and issues. I've had other people say, that they only wanted to come in and get information, have their questions answered and leave. They didn't, whether they're approached or not, they just want to have a neutral opportunity to come in, get information, have any questions answered and leave. That's it. In terms of information, both the costs and the benefits of this proposed event center will be provided on those panels. They're already there. So there's any additional information that we give you in terms of those information, if there is, as the project goes forward, that will be made available. Whatever, if there's negotiations or other information that's made available, it will be done as soon as possible and put on the city's website or given out. But there is a significant amount of information available on the city's website right now. Pages and pages, hundreds, if not thousands of pages now available of information for people to go through. Significantly long question and answer sessions. So there's a much more actually than average for most large city projects information available. So that information is available on the website. It will be summarized, and the significant issues, as I mentioned before, will be available for the open house. Your Worship.
Thank you. Ms. Summer?
Thank you, Your Worship. So also, we found out today from the Inspector of Municipalities that the Ministry has approved the borrowing bylaw in its format as well as the question. So that was one of the important markers that we were waiting for, because we're not able to proceed with calling the non-election assent voting without having that authorization. So we're very happy to have received that today. That allows us to continue to move forward. And as Ms. Feller stated, Council has directed staff to investigate the feasibility of an event center, and that's been done with consultants and experts. So the information being provided is coming from third parties. The reports that we have been vetted by independent and objective additional third parties. So that information is the types of information that are going to be provided at these open houses. Staff are there to answer questions about, did you do an environmental assessment on One Port Drive when you purchased it? What are the results of the engineering? What are some of the information on moving a sewer line, etc.? They're there to provide information that they have in their respective expertise. For example, Ms. Gurry and Ms. Snellgrove will be manning the table for the non-election assent voting. So they're the ones that are going to field the questions on, can I do a mail-in ballot? How do I register? They're there for just basic information. Likewise, Mr. Mema and his finance team will be answering questions about our budget and the different revenue streams that we have available for the city, answering questions like what happens if there's an emergency, does the city have any other funds to deal with something if there's a catastrophe and we need to be able to rebuild a bridge or a road. So this is a staff work environment where staff are providing information to the public. So it's very important that they be able to do so in a respectful workplace. And while I appreciate the back and forth on social media, Councillor Hong has identified some of the passion that goes into the yes vote and the no vote. And it's, definitely been, it's definitely in debate out there. And I'm no longer on social media, but I did have something sent to me that Mr. Bonner had posted. And I just would ask Mr. Bonner, does he think it's a respectful treatment of staff to post political cartoons of them? And I think that's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. And so if it's starting to creep into an attack on staff, that's when it's important for council to stick up for staff and ensure that we have a safe environment. So I'm very happy to hear the vote is going to be information sessions and that any of the political lobbying on the yes or the no side not be put in front of staff for staff to have to endure during these sessions.
And I would answer that, and that Canada has a long history of political cartoons, and we use that on a regular basis.
I'm going to stop you right there. This is questions coming this way.
She started it. Okay. Anyway,
no, this is questions coming this way.
Any other questions? I have another question regarding elections, and I know that the No Vote 2017 committee wants to be able to make presentations to council every time this referendum or any of this information is talked about. And so my question is, why did we hide information about the mail-in ballot, which is extremely important because a lot of our members are out of town, in the mayor's report, so that I wasn't able to actually make a presentation on it?
The mail-in ballot?
Yeah, it was put into the mayor's report instead of putting it into the agenda so that we could have actually made a presentation on it.
Okay, because in actual fact, we weren't expecting to have the, Ms. Gurry, help me here, the declaration from the approval from the Inspector of Municipalities by today's meeting. It arrived late this afternoon. So we wanted to get it out there. We have not even appointed the election officers until after that arrives.
Yes, it's actually today that kicks in, but also, Your Worship, you were getting a lot of questions and spoke to me about that earlier. They were fielding a lot of questions about mail-in ballots, right. And we thought it would be a good idea to bring it up this evening to help people out with questions.
Sure.
And I'm not opposed to the possibility of bringing it up. It's just that you should be making sure that you say, okay, how can we, if this is coming up, how can we let everyone know about it ahead of time so that if they wish to talk on it? That's all I'm saying. It's just this openness here. Don't hide anything. Get anything out as much as you can, as possibly as can. Final question. Councillor Yoakum mentioned that staff is not lobbying anybody. Are you aware that staff met with the Yes Committee a little while ago? They were there to talk to them about the referendum.
I don't know where it was 24/7.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so don't go anywhere, Ms. Fowler. I've got Ms. Fowler, I've got Ms. Samra.
We'll make some comments after you receive the delegation.
Thank you.
Turn that off.
I'm not a delegate.
Ms. Gurry.
Just a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to let Mr. Bonner know that the mail-in ballot information has been on the website for the last week, so I was just bringing it to everybody's attention this evening.
Send them a non-resident voter form.
Thank you.
Want a non-resident voter form?
Any other questions, sir?
I'm just, Councillor Kipp.
Are you a resident? Do you live out in East Wellington Road now? Is that the address you use?
I moved again. I'm on Northfield now.
Oh, you're in town now.
Have always been. East Wellington now is in town as well.
No, it wasn't. I thought it's out of
Yeah,
town.
it's right in the city limits. You should check your city
No,
limits.
I thought it was out there.
Thank you.
I've been mistaken before. I'm not like you.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And it's on your website.
Ms. Fowler.
No, sorry.
No, good.
Just getting my
Ms. Samra?
points mixed up, sorry.
Your Worship, is pros and cons fact or subjective rhetoric mostly? When you have pros and cons, it's not really always factual based. It's someone's feeling about it typically, especially when you have a group that comes in with cons based on the information. I don't know if it's factual at that point or subjective. I'd like to find out that, whether I could determine whether it's subjective or really objective information they're giving or subjective. It'd be interesting.
Can we have a motion to adjourn?
Well, we have an answer to my question here.
If I may, Your Worship, through to Councillor, Ms. Samra has also given an oversight of the fact we have had third-party verification. So we do have engineers who've done environmental studies report, archaeological, whatever, it's too late to say that word, that have done archaeological studies, and a variety of Ernst & Young has actually in its report done pros and cons, so there is a balance. And so those either subject matter experts, professionals, or third-party verification has done that. How someone else chooses to use that information becomes more subjective, but there's always a subjectivity in everything you do. We're human. So hopefully that gives you some idea, but I said it's trying to make sure that there are professionals and experts who can give advice to the city.
Thank you.
Ms. Samra.
Good. So in addition to the public information sessions that have been held, staff and consultants and staff alone have met with various stakeholder groups across the community during the consulting reports, phases 1 and phase 2, to provide information to them on the event center. There was actual consultations with Snuneymuxw First Nation. We met with the Chamber of Commerce. We met with the Port Authority. We sent out information and information requests to the school district, VIU, the YES Committee. And the YES Committee is called the YES Committee, but it's called the YES Committee from a referendum on the building in which we sit. They're not the YES Committee registered in support of or opposition to the event center, and I think that's a very important distinction to draw. In order for anybody to advocate and advertise against or for the proposed event center, they need to register with Elections BC. So I think it's important to know that staff and over the next few months or 6 weeks, we'll also be going out to any of the community organizations that invite us to attend and provide basic information.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Brennan? No? Councillor Brennan?
When we go to the different organizations like VIU and the school district, do we ask them to send us letters of support for the
Yes,
project?
Yeah, Councillor Brenner, you're aware of that. When we were going through each of the things, we asked them to express what their support was for or against the event center. As you're aware, the school district did give us a letter, but the board reconsidered that and said they just had, they didn't directly come from the board. They didn't have a vote, so you were likely aware of that.
I am aware that it was presented just to staff, not to the board, and that the board was quite surprised when they found that out. I was wondering, because we had published it and attached it to one of our agendas, if the retraction would also be published.
We actually.
Staff did write a letter to.
No, let's just keep this in order. Okay, so you've asked a question. Ms. Sammer.
So we have them all published, the letters that came in. They did come in from staff from other organizations, so.
Thank you.
So what? So no, we will not print the retraction?
We weren't requested to print a retraction of that letter.
Requesting it now then.
I'm not
We
aware.
published something that the community read and could conclude that the school district supported the project of the multiplex. Subsequently, the school board wrote to the city and said
Excuse me, Your Worship.
that was an error.
We're having a debate between staff and council right now. It's not being directed through the chair, so I'm just drawing attention
Okay,
to
I'm going to
the
direct it through
decorum,
the
please.
chair.
Thank you.
What's the conflict?
No. Okay, so we're about to lose quorum here.
I'm going to just write to the mayor and council and ask that it be publicly retracted because I think that it was. There's no conflict.
No, please. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Brennan. Is there a motion to adjourn? Councillor Yocum, seconded by Councillor Hong. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.